of life or death would they allow a helicopter to go in to pick somebody up. And then the guy said, well, maybe just for a matter of life. For death, we'd probably pack him out some other way. But there was no way that Bruce was going to get a helicopter to bring me in, so he arranged to have a horse come and bring me out.
Well, maybe my knees are shaking for a different reason than Tony's. I'm going to step off the stage now, but what I'd like is if everyone would join me, not just in a round of applause, but a standing ovation for Walt Gill.
Thanks, Robbie. Thanks. Pleasure having you back.
Walt, I've got two documents here. You can't see this, but you can later for the people out there. This is his original badge picture, blown up for him to keep. And we also have a personnel action notice that we prepared that this is a change of status. Your base rate goes to 0. You go from VP, Chief Technology Officer, to engineer. That's in parentheses, train engineer. And you go from corporate to paradise. And Joe will no longer be your supervisor. Gene Gill will be.
Uh-oh.
And weekly allowances will have to be negotiated with her. And we did put down here, so it was clear for the record, this is a change of status. Walt is not retiring.
Thanks, Roger.
Not so fast, Walt. You know, it is hard to imagine, though. I can understand why folks are not using the retire word. I mean, it's hard to imagine Walt being any more retired than he is. I've never seen such a picture of calm and quiet. Was there anybody else that wanted to come up before we just move on here? Is there anybody else that wanted to come up and say anything about Walt?
My family's not included.
Oh, well, I mean, you know, they may... Okay. All right. Well, just from a personal point of view, it's actually almost 10 months since the first time I met Mr. Gill, and it was in a conference room over at the famous Heydrich and Struggles headhunting firm, and Walt and I had a nice conversation, and I think I've related to most of you before some of the thoughts I had about getting kind of back into the business and things like that. The overriding memory I have of my conversation with Walt is that in addition to understanding who it was I was talking to and what he had accomplished, but I also left with an overriding feeling of having met a really fine gentleman, and that meant an awful lot to me. As time went on, in the short time that I've known Walt, again, I think a feeling I've expressed to many of you is that you don't exactly come into a company and deal with founder types lightly. You worry a little bit about that sometime. Generally, the word that's associated mentally or, you know, in your thoughts about founders is the word interference. But my overriding feelings about Walt are feelings of not only is he a fun, but in the short time that I've had the honor and pleasure of working with him, I found him to be anything but interfering. He's been the most supportive person. He's been as supportive as anybody and as much as I could expect from anybody in our company, certainly from a gentleman with the reputation that Walt has, and I certainly thank him for that. He's made my early days here a lot easier. The final thing is that he's never been reluctant. He's never been unavailable when I needed him, when I needed to talk to him about a company issue or get some background or ask for advice. Walt has always been there. And so it's only been a short time, but those are the overriding thoughts I have about you, my friend. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Joe.
And now, where's Carol? Ah, you're hiding behind me. Okay. wanted to make sure we had something special to give Walt on this on this wonderful day. And not so fast, Walt. Why are you taking that off? That's part of the program. We want you to put that back on. Oh yeah, put that back on. And besides, you may need that to wipe up when we're finished. But you know, when you get right down to it, when you strip away all the glamour, all the money, you know, and all the success, Walt's an engineer, a plain old everyday engineer, and we don't want you to forget that, Walt. Now, Walt also happens to have a hobby that some of you probably know about and some of you don't, but it is very much in line with this kind of engineering. So we wanted to get something very special for Walt, for him to remember this day with us and, of course, in his life. And so we got a little something here that we think he's going to like an awful lot that has to do with this kind of engineering. I'm going to let Walt tell you what this is, because to me it's a train.
Well, for those of you that are familiar with trains around the area here, this is an old model of an old steam locomotive that Southern Pacific used to run around here. And this actual locomotive still runs. It's kept up in Portland, and you will occasionally see it running up and down the Bay Area on excursion runs. So this is a very special model of a very special train, and it's very meaningful to me. Thank you.
I'm sure that'll find a nice spot in your collection, Mr. Gill. I never quite thought of the fish gill thing, but that is, the more I think about that, the more that's pretty funny. All right, well, we're going to pretty soon here let Walt have the mic and say a few words. Finally, I'd like to give Walt just a little plaque to remember us by, and it's just a little something that says in kind of very informal terms, a thank you to this great guy. It says, Walter J. Gill, thank you for 11 years of commitment, dedication, and friendship as co-founder, vice president, and board member, 1983 to 1994. With that, let me ask you to do one more time what Robbie asked you to do. Let's give the proper standing ovation and welcome to a guy who's he's a rare breed, because he's done something that probably you and I will never get an opportunity to do, and that is he got a company like this going and made it possible for all of us to have jobs and careers and things to talk about with our families. Walt Gill.
I'd like to make just a couple of brief comments, and I know I'm between you and lunch right now, so I'll make it as quick as I can. I'm glad that Roger cleared up this issue about retirement versus leaving and whatnot, because I'm not really going to say goodbye or farewell, because I'm not going to really leave N.E.T. I'm going to stay on the board. I'll still be involved. I'll still be very interested. I still own stock in the company, so keep it going up. And several people have asked me what I'm going to be doing when I leave N.E.T. Am I going to get involved in another startup? And it's absolutely no. I've done it 3 times, and I think that's enough in anybody's lifetime. And I will be probably involved with some other companies at the board level in a non-competitive sort of situation, and try to keep my hands involved in technology and my head stimulated to a certain extent. So I will stay involved in the industry and certainly with N.E.T. So I still hope to remain part of the N.E.T. family. And speaking of family, I'm glad to see that